He was born with a blood clot clutched in his fist. His father was poisoned before he turned 10. His tribe abandoned him to starve on the Mongol steppe, left him with nothing. No horse, no weapons, no name that mattered. Every measure of the world he entered said he should have been nothing. A broken thing, a forgotten grave somewhere in the grass. But the Mongol steppes had a way of turning broken things into weapons. And here's what most people don't know. The boy who survived that abandonment, the one the shamans marked at birth, would go on to conquer more territory than any man before or since. 250 million square kilometers. He would unite the most brutal cavalry force the world had ever seen. He would reshape empires, redraw maps, and leave a legacy of such staggering ambition that even death could not stop his momentum. His birth name was Temujin. The world would know him as Genghis Khan. Let that sink in for a moment. In the year 1162, along the Onan River in what we now call Mongolia, the bitter wind carved across the steppes like a blade. The earth was still, just grass and silence and the distant sound of horses. It was in this desolation that a woman named Holun gave birth to a son in a felt tent, screaming against the cold. When the midwives placed the child in her arms, they fell silent. The baby's fist was closed, and when they opened it, blood pooled in his palm. Not a wound, a blood clot shaped like a stone. The old men of the tribe gathered. They had seen omens before. They had read the sky and the bones and the flight of birds. One of them, a shaman, looked at that blood and spoke words that would echo through centuries. Heaven has sent us a Gaz, a destined one. This child will become the master of all. The boy's father, a minor chieftain named Yesügei of the Kiat clan, had just returned from a raid. He had captured a warrior from the rival Tatars and, in the custom of those times, demanded a prisoner's name. The Tatar said his name was Temujin. So Yesügei named his newborn son after his enemy, a custom meant to transfer the captured man's strength into the boy. He named him Temujin. He had no way of knowing that the name would outlive empires. But here is where the story turns to ash. When Temujin was 9 years old, his father took him to meet his betrothed, a girl named Börte from the neighboring Conqueror tribe. It was meant to be a simple arrangement, a marriage to bind two clans together. Yesügei left his son with Börte's family and set out for home. On the journey back, he stopped at a camp, thirsty, hungry, a small mistake. The men at that camp were Tatars, the very tribe his earlier raid had grieved. They recognized him. Instead of killing him on the spot, they poisoned his food slowly, letting the toxin work its way through his body over 3 days. By the time Yesügei reached home, he was already dead. The moment the Kiat clan heard of their chieftain's death, they abandoned his widow and her children. This is what the steppes demanded: loyalty to the living, not the dead. Temujin, his younger brother Khazar, and his half-brother Belgutai were cast out, exiled, expected to perish. Temujin was 9 years old. They had nothing, no horses, no servants, no claim to their father's position. They lived on what the earth offered: small fish from the rivers, the leaves of trees, the meat of wild game if Temujin could shoot straight enough. There were nights when they ate nothing at all. There were mornings when Temujin wondered if this day would be the one he didn't survive. One day, his older half-brother Belgutai came back from hunting with a small fish. Temujin's half-brother, the son of another wife, asked him to share. Temujin refused. He saw it as his kill, his survival. The argument escalated. Temujin reached for his bow, knocked an arrow, and shot his half-brother down. He didn't hesitate. He didn't beg forgiveness. He would do what was necessary. You are standing on a river plain. Behind you, the endless grass. Before you, hundreds of mounted warriors closing in. This is where Temujin was captured, not as a man, but as a teenager. A rival tribe, the Tatars, had come for revenge. They surrounded his small camp at dusk. Temujin fought. His followers scattered. He was taken alive. They placed a wooden yoke around his neck, a heavy, degrading collar meant to humiliate him. Then they paraded him from camp to camp, displaying him like a trophy. This is Yesügei's son. This is the boy who thinks he can lead. They celebrated in the evening, drinking fermented mare's milk, their guards growing careless. Temujin watched. He waited. And when the night reached its deepest point, he made his move. He broke free from the yoke and ran into the darkness. He ran until his lungs burned and his legs gave out. When he could run no longer, he hid in a ravine and waited for morning. But one man followed. A guard named Sorgan Shira found him hiding, realized who he was, and instead of dragging him back, instead of collecting a reward, this man made a choice. He cut the yoke from Temujin's neck and helped him escape. It was a small act of mercy in a brutal world. Temujin never forgot it. When he returned to his family's camp, he found it abandoned. No one was there. They had fled when they heard of his capture, assuming he was dead, or perhaps assuming his capture made him useless. Either way, Temujin was alone again. But this time, something had changed in him. The boy who had been cast out twice, first by his tribe, then by fate itself, had learned a terrible lesson. You survive alone, or you don't survive at all. Temujin was in his mid-teens when he made a choice that would reshape his destiny. Near the Onan River, he found another young man his age, a youth named Jamukha. They looked at each other across the grass, and something passed between them. A recognition of hunger, of ambition, of a desire to be more than their circumstances. They made a blood oath. They became Anda, sworn brothers. We will share everything, they swore. We will be stronger together than apart. For a time, it worked. The two young men gathered followers, outcasts, the abandoned, men with nowhere else to go. Temujin's reputation began to spread through the clans. People spoke of a leader who rewarded loyalty and punished betrayal with absolute clarity. They called him a rising force. But then, while Temujin was traveling, the Merkits, an old enemy of his father's, attacked his camp. They wanted revenge, and they took his wife. Börte, the girl he had been betrothed to as a child, was abducted. Temujin rode to Togrul Khan, the powerful ruler of the Kharit tribe and an old ally of his father. He knelt before him and made a simple request: "Help me get my wife back." Togrul Khan agreed. He provided warriors, 20,000 soldiers. Jamukha, his sworn brother, brought another 20,000. Temujin hunted the Merkits across the grassland, 400 kilometers, all the way to Lake Baikal in in Siberia. When he found their camps, he attacked at night. Brutal, swift, merciless. He recovered Börte, but she was already pregnant. The child she bore, his eldest son, Jochi, would carry doubt about his paternity for the rest of his life. But Temujin claimed him. He claimed all of his wife's children as his own. The rescue cemented Temujin's reputation. He was no longer a refugee. He was a warrior. A man who kept his word and destroyed his enemies. Here is what most people don't understand about power on the steppes. It did not come from lineage. It did not come from inherited wealth or ancient names. It came from one thing and one thing alone: the loyalty of men. And loyalty was earned through victory, through reward, and through absolute consistency. Temujin began absorbing other clans. He took in anyone who would follow him: the poor, the exiled, the ambitious. And crucially, he promoted based on merit, not blood. If a man was capable, he rose. If a man was weak, he fell behind. This was revolutionary. Among the Mongol tribes, status was inherited. Power was determined by birth. Temujin changed that. Slowly, methodically, he unified the fragmented tribes of Mongolia: the Tatars, the Merkits, the Kharit. Each one bent or broke before his organized cavalry. Each one swelled his numbers. But then, inevitably, came the conflict with Jamukha, his sworn brother. The man who had helped him reclaim Börte. The man he had sworn to share everything with. Jamukha wanted Temujin to rule only the clans loyal to him. Jamukha wanted power concentrated in the hands of a small circle of trusted allies. He feared that if ordinary men were promoted to positions of authority, if merit mattered more than kinship, the old way of life would shatter. Temujin believed the opposite. He believed that the strongest army would be one built on loyalty earned through competence, not accident of birth. The two brothers went to war. At a place called Dalan Baljut, they fought a massive battle. Temujin was defeated. His army scattered. Jamukha took prisoners and executed them, boiling them in large cauldrons to demonstrate his power and his willingness to destroy anyone who opposed him. But Temujin did not retreat and disappear. Instead, he did something brilliant. He took the smaller clans that had supported Jamukha and he conquered them one by one. He absorbed them into his growing force, and crucially, he did not execute their leaders. He incorporated them. He offered them positions. He showed them that survival under Temujin meant respect and advancement, not subjugation. Slowly, Jamukha's allies began to defect. The power drained from the man who had once been Temujin's equal. Finally, Jamukha's last remaining supporters, seeing the wind had changed, captured him themselves and brought him to Temujin, hoping to curry favor. He did not kill him with his own hands. That would have violated a tribal custom. Instead, he executed the men who had betrayed Jamukha. A man who would betray his own lord to save himself is worth nothing to me, he said. What could such a man ever be to me? Jamukha died in that moment, not by sword, but by abandonment. The brother who had once sworn to share everything now had nothing. In the year 1206, Temujin called a great assembly, a Kurultai. Every clan leader in Mongolia was summoned. Every tribe that had not already bent was given one final choice: submit or be destroyed. They submitted. On that day, the scattered peoples of the Mongol steppes, fragmented for generations, fighting endlessly with each other, wasting their strength on tribal disputes, were unified under one banner: one leader, one vision. The assembly voted. The result was unanimous. Temujin was proclaimed Khagan, the highest possible title, the great ruler, the universal leader. And they gave him a new name to match his new destiny, Genghis Khan. He was in his early 40s. He had risen from abandonment to empire. But this was only the beginning. Let that sink in for a moment. Genghis Khan understood something that most leaders never grasped. The steppes alone were not enough. Mongolia could feed horses and warriors, but it could not feed ambition on that scale. To expand, to conquer, to build a truly universal empire, he would need to reach beyond the grasslands. He would need to take the settled kingdoms that surrounded him. First came the Tangut, a kingdom to the south with walled cities, something the nomadic Mongols had never successfully assaulted before. Genghis Khan did not rush. He studied them. He probed their defenses with small raids. He gathered intelligence. And when he was ready, he attacked in the open field where the Mongol cavalry's speed and coordination would matter most. The Tangut fell. Next came the Jin dynasty, the vast, wealthy empire that controlled what we now call northern China. The Jin were sophisticated. They were organized. They had standing armies and fortified cities and administrative systems that had ruled millions for generations. Genghis Khan took 20 years to conquer them. Year by year, siege by siege, he ground them down. And by 1215, his armies controlled Beijing, the heart of the Jin Empire. The Jin dynasty that had seemed eternal, that had controlled territory larger than all of Europe, crumbled. But then came his greatest challenge, the Khwarazmian Empire. In 1218, Genghis Khan sent ambassadors to the Shah of Khwarazm. The message was simple: let us trade. Let us establish peaceful commerce between our peoples. The Silk Road wealth that flowed through Khwarazm was staggering. Spices, silks, precious metals, and Genghis Khan wanted a piece of it. The Shah's governor in the border city of Otrar had a different idea. He looked at these Mongol ambassadors and saw spies, enemies. He saw men to be eliminated, so he had them executed. And he sent a message back to Genghis Khan. These men who came to you as ambassadors were thieves and liars. I have executed them as they deserved. Genghis Khan received this message in his camp. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he stood. His voice, when he spoke, was quiet. The Shah has chosen war. The Shah will have war. In 1219, Genghis Khan led an army of 100,000 warriors west, not to raid, not to plunder, but to erase. The Mongols operated under a terrifying principle. If you destroyed the first city completely, if you made an example so brutal and so final that survivors spread the story, then the next cities would surrender without a fight. Fear itself became a weapon. They came to Otrar first. The governor who had executed the ambassadors was captured. They say Genghis Khan had molten silver poured into his eyes and ears, a death chosen specifically to match his crime. The city was flattened. Everyone in it was killed. The Mongols then used the rubble as a platform to catapult corpses into the next line of defense. City after city fell. Samarkand, Bukhara, the Khwarazmian Empire, which had stood for centuries, which had seemed eternal, was reduced to ash in just 3 years. By 1221, the empire was completely conquered. The Shah himself fled and died, defeated not by Genghis Khan's sword, but by the weight of his own failure. The Mongol Empire now stretched from the Pacific to the Caspian Sea, and Genghis Khan was only beginning. What separated Genghis Khan from other conquerors was not cruelty. The steppes in the medieval world were both brutal places, and violence was the language everyone spoke. What separated him was organization. He abolished the old tribal system entirely. Lineage meant nothing. A man was placed in the army based on what he could do, not who his parents were. He created a standing military of over 100,000 warriors, unprecedented for any nomadic people. He trained them relentlessly. He standardized their equipment. He created a system of logistics that could move and supply an army across thousands of kilometers. He created the Yasa, a code of law that applied to all people under Mongol rule, regardless of tribe or background. It guaranteed safe passage to merchants. It punished treason with death. It promised that if you submitted peacefully, you would be left alone. But if you resisted, if you fought, if you harbored his enemies, your entire family would be exterminated. This was not random cruelty. This was a system. Genghis Khan also understood the power of information. He created a network of spies and scouts that reported to him constantly. He knew what was happening in enemy cities before the enemy cities themselves did. He exploited divisions between rivals. He turned allies against each other. He moved with speed and coordination that astonished the settled empires, who were used to slow campaigns and cumbersome logistics. Most importantly, he understood that empire required more than conquest. It required administration. So as he conquered territories, he left governors behind. He established trade routes. He encouraged merchants from all nations to travel the steppes under his protection. He created a system where Chinese administrators worked for Mongol Khans, where Persian merchants traveled safely through Mongolian territory, where different religions and cultures coexisted, not out of tolerance, but out of practical necessity. The Mongol Empire became the greatest military machine the world had ever seen. And Genghis Khan was not finished. In 1227, Genghis Khan died. He was in his 60s, an old man by the standards of a warrior culture. He died not in battle, not by assassination, but by illness. The man who had conquered more territory than any conqueror before him, who had unified a fractured people and built them into an unstoppable force, was stopped by something no warrior could overcome: time itself. But here is what most people don't know. Genghis Khan left instructions that his burial place should never be found. He did not want a tomb. He did not want pilgrims. He wanted to disappear into the history he had created. And to this day, nearly 800 years later, no one knows where he was buried. Ladies and gentlemen, in his lifetime, Genghis Khan conquered 110 million square kilometers of territory. He directly ruled over 200 million people. He created an empire so vast that someone could travel from Korea to the Mediterranean Sea without leaving Mongol lands. The empire that he founded would outlast him by more than a century. His descendants would rule China. His descendants would rule Persia. His descendants would threaten Europe itself. And yet, for all this conquest, for all this power, Genghis Khan never forgot where he came from. He never forgot the boy abandoned on the steppes. He never forgot the prisoner in the yoke. He never forgot what it felt like to have nothing. This is what separated him from other men who claimed power. He knew what he was fighting for. He knew what survival cost. And he knew that a man who had survived abandonment and humiliation and starvation could accomplish things that men born into comfort could never imagine. Because this is what Genghis Khan looked like. A man who understood that true power is not given. It is taken. It is built from nothing. It is forged in suffering and tempered in cruelty. It is the triumph of will over circumstance. The boy with the blood clot in his fist became the master of all. And that legacy, that empire built from ash, echoes through the centuries still. Because their journey was written down, preserved, and told again and again through the ages. A story that will never fade.